So today we're going to talk about intercepts. And when I think of intercepts, I always think of interceptions in football. So if someone intercepts the football, then that means they're crossing in front of someone and stealing the ball. So an intercept in graphing is very similar because it's where something is going to cross the x and the y axis. So it's all about crossing. So before we get into it really, let's draw our coordinate plane and talk about what we know. So our coordinate plane is where we're graphing all these linear equations. And hopefully by now you know that this vertical line is the y-axis and the horizontal line is the x-axis. So today when we're talking about the x-intercept, that's going to be where our line that we draw crosses this x-axis. So no tricks, no gimmicks. X-intercept crosses the x-axis. So then if we're talking about the y-intercept, that's going to be where it crosses the y-axis. Alright, so let me show you what that looks like. Now for some reason my graphs showed up real funky, but they should look pretty normal on yours. But because they're so funky, I'm not going to have us do slope with these because it would just be too confusing. So let's just talk about how to find the x and the y-intercept from a graph. So if we're looking at this first graph, I'll zoom in a little bit. Always start by labeling your x and your y-axis. So hopefully you know this is the y and this is the x. So there's going to be a bunch of points on your line when you graph them, but you might not need all of them when you're trying to identify the x and the y-intercept. So if we're looking at this blue line, the x-axis is going to be where our line crosses the x-axis. So I'm going to put a point where my line crosses the x-axis, and that would be right here. Okay? And then the y-intercept is going to be where it hits the y-axis, so that would be right here. Okay? So we need to figure out what those ordered pairs are. And again, my graph showed up so funky, so it's going to be a little weird. But our x-intercept, the ordered pair for that would be over -2, up or down 0. So -2, 0. Now my y-intercept is going to be up 1, 2, 3, 4. So over 0, up 4. Okay? Your x and your y-intercept are just points on your line, and you're going to write them as ordered pairs. Okay? So let's look at this line. I have my x-axis and my y-axis. Always label those so you don't get confused. So where this point hits the x-axis would be right here, and it hits the y-axis right here. So we're going to call those as ordered pairs. So let's do the x-axis first. So the x-intercept is going to be over 1, up or down 0. And the y is going to be over 0, down 2. Oops, sorry, my comma got a little weird there. And then my last one is a little funky. It hits the y-axis, which is right here, at this point. I'm going to put a little point there. And then it doesn't hit the x-axis at all, so I'm not going to do anything with the x. There's no x-intercept, so I can't do that. So it is going to have a y-intercept, and that's going to be over 0, up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing a pattern. For the x-intercept, we always have an x value, and the y value is 0. And then for the y-intercept, we're always going to have a y value, and the x value is 0. So that's how you know that you're doing things correctly, is you'll see that pattern. Okay, so that's how to identify X and Y intercept from a graph, and now we're going to do the second part of our lesson, which is actually having you guys graph the intercepts from your given information. So if we look at these top ones, I'm telling you up here that the x-intercept is 5 and the y-intercept is 1. So always start again by labeling your x and your y-axis. And if my x-intercept is 5, I'm going to find my x-axis. I'm going to find 5. So that would be right here. And then my y-intercept is 1. So on my y-axis, I'm going to go to 1. So we have our line. Okay? Now you always have to write these as ordered pairs. So, oops, not my line, sorry. My x-intercept is going to be over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 0. And my y-intercept is going to be over 0, up 1. So again, sticking with that pattern of the zeros. Alright, let's look at this one, and then I'm going to have you guys do the next two on your own. So first thing I have to do is graph. So my x-intercept, again, here's my x-axis, and here's my y-axis. So my x-intercept is -5. Oopsies. Sorry about that. My y-intercept is going to be -4. And then I'm going to graph my line. There we go. And now I have to write the ordered pairs. So my x-intercept is going to be over -5 and up or down 0. And then my y-intercept is going to be over 0, down 4. Okay, so hopefully not too bad. I'm going to have you guys try these last two and then call me over when you think you've got it. Raise your hand. All right, good luck.